Welcome in for another edition of NewOrleans.Football. NewOrleans.Football, as always, is presented by PJ's Coffee, the best coffee shop in the world. And if you're on your way to a PJ's, make sure it's in a car from Matt Bowers Auto Group. We have the Ford dealership up there by our spot on Vets, but they have dealerships everywhere. Ended up going to one in Mobile, Alabama. So Matt is covered all the way across the
He's
board.
got it covered, man.
Yeah, he's got it covered. No question about it. Let's get into our first topic today, presented by Aaron Rose. Mike, you and Nick went to the combine last week. You heard the stuff. You seen some stuff. But did the combine change your opinion of who the Saints should draft at number 9? Learn some of the things with a guy who I was pretty high on, and Abdul Carr. I think the whole world was pretty high, but found out that he had a stress fracture in his foot.
Yeah.
Don't know if that's the way Kellen Moore wants to start off his tenure down here by taking a shot on somebody who's injured. But where are your thoughts at, man? Have they changed any?
It hasn't changed what the Saints need. That's for sure. Look, I'm doing a series. I started it today on the offense on the website, and I'm going to do the defense before free agency starts next week, ranking the Saints' needs. And it's basically, I did offense, and it's a 5-way tie for first, man. Like, there's not a position you take off the list. And I said I ranked offensive line together, but I'd take a guard or a tackle. I guess that's one thing from the combine is all the talk about Will Campbell's arm length, and is he actually going to be a guard? Well, if I'm the Saints, I'm like, I don't care. As long as it helps him fall to 9, then we'll go ahead and take him, and maybe we'll use him at left tackle, or maybe we'll use him at left guard. We could fit either one into the offensive line and rebuild it from the top down. But I mean, they need another receiver. They need another tight end. I would love Tyler Warren. They need another running back. Ashton Jeanty, come on down. I guess the only thing, though, is I did rank quarterback number 1 because if you don't have a quarterback, that trumps everything until you do have a quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think coming out of the combine, I feel even less likely that the Saints land a quarterback in round 1 because I kind of get the feeling that Cam Ward is their favorite, but I also it sure sounds like Cam Ward is everyone's favorite. I feel like he's going to go number 1 is my prediction. Shedeur Sanders, a little more all over the map. I think someone will like him enough to take him high. I don't know that everyone will like him. I don't think the Saints are that high on Jackson Dart. I don't know that another quarterback is emerging where the Saints find their Bo Nix at number 9. So I guess I'm even more emboldened that I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback. But no, like there's nothing that made me think the board changes for them. The board is take somebody who can be an all-pro because they don't have any all-pros on this team anymore that aren't 34 years old. And that could be an offensive lineman, a receiver, a tight end, a running back, a defensive tackle, a defensive end, a linebacker, a corner, a safety. It could be anything. I mean, Mason Graham is one guy who I think maybe, he made a lot of sense at first, but man, if it's always positive around Mason Graham. I feel like he's a guy who maybe doesn't escape the top 5, maybe doesn't get into their range, but like I said, it's so easy, just put grades on every one of these guys.
Yeah.
Take the one you can't believe fell to 9 and stay at 9 is the other thing I would do. Because there have been years in the past where most of the Drew Brees years where they had this core roster where you could only add 3-4 new guys to the team anyway. You could only add 1 new starter to the team. I understood when they traded up. Please don't trade up. Don't feel like you're one guy away from anything right now. I want 2 1s and 2 2s. I don't want to be consolidating all my picks into one guy, no matter how special he is.
No, for sure. It's definitely different than back then when you could say, all right, yeah, let's throw in on this. Because if we get out, we're going to be okay. It's definitely different. But
a lot of years like that. I mean, and I agree. And I didn't have a problem with that. I did not love the Marcus Davenport trade. It's so funny when I think back to that day. I get in about 1 Twitter war a year where I just can't let something go. And I have to keep trying to restate my point over and over again.
Yeah.
So that everyone will be like, oh, now I understand your point, Mike, and I agree with you, and you're great, and thank you for explaining it to me. Every once in a while I get caught up in one of those. And one of them was this was too much to pay for a player like that on Marcus Davenport. I was like, I think Marcus Davenport should have gone 14th. That's great. I still think Marcus Davenport should have gone 14th. He wasn't able to stay healthy. But
I'm about to say, you're holding on to that. I mean,
Yeah,
Still
like
went on the field.
I don't blame them for
Okay.
valuing him where they valued him. We saw the talent. We know what they saw. It
Mhm.
didn't work out. But nobody that I think should go 14th in the draft is ever worth 2 first-round picks, you know? And so that I was arguing with people on that. I didn't like paying 2 first-rounders for a 14th pick in the draft. No 14th pick in the draft is worth 2 first-rounders to me. But yeah, trading up, you throw in a third here or there, you go get your Malcolm Jenkins, you go get your somebody who really fits, Tali Fuaga. I'm glad they stayed put and got him last year. They really needed an offensive tackle. Sheldon Rankins that year, they needed a defensive tackle. Like, they didn't trade up for all those guys, but like, there's so many years where they're like, yeah, gosh, this is a missing piece because they have all these other pieces. Not this year. This year, it's man. I want one new player at every position for the team.
Right.
At least.
No, for sure. Hey, and whoever is on the receiving end of your Twitter rant this year, your one per year, it's not just you. It's not just you because there's an entire lost episode of NOF behind Mike standing on the point around draft time.
Well, the other thing that I was going to say that was so funny about that is the people I was arguing with, the overwhelming Twitter crowd was the Saints can do no wrong. How dare you question the Saints? And that is not what Twitter is like these days.
No, it's totally changed. I was taking a look at some of the mock drafts. I think honestly speaking, you can't go wrong. Like you said, you can't go wrong by just getting somebody new who's going to be good because you need it everywhere. I think the only position maybe, and even then because he can't. I don't want to say in a disrespectful way he can't stay on the field, but maybe center. Go after that one because there is no real high price.
Yes, that's true. I would,
but
if you draft a center, he's got to be able to move to guard like we do every Ruiz, and that would scare me a little bit because Steve Ruiz took a while to adjust.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a fair one. Where are you on running back, B? I'm really torn on this one. If Nick were here today's episode, he's pro running back.
Like, he is pro running back.
Special running back can transform your team. Look at Barkley. Look at the NFL has gone back to heavy to beat up on these.
I am not for sure if the gentleman that is perceived to be the running back. Hey, if I have to eat crow from it, sure.
All right,
cool with that.
You're betting a little against Genty.
A little bit.
It's stock. You're selling the stock.
Yeah, a little bit
at this price.
He
through the roof.
He's good.
Yeah.
Hell of a back. But I think there are many more pressing needs on this team before you go up and get that. That's just how I feel. But sticking with the running back, the Saints made space for whoever they're going to get yesterday. Let's go on to our next segment presented by Shybar Insurance. The Earhart Agency, the Saints released Jamal Williams, the first kind of big release of this offseason. Jamal Williams, veteran running back, 29 years old, holder of maybe top 5 most memorable touchdowns in the past 2 seasons.
Oh, that's a good one. Should we rank the top 5?
We should. The I was about to say number 1, but that MVS catch, that's top for me.
How about Jameis's touchdown to
A.T. Perry? Yes.
Man.
Yes. Man. For sure. There's a 5. There is a 5 there, and he's the holder of one of the top 5.
He's in the comments.
We're gonna have to put him in there. Yeah.
Hold on. Keep talking about Jamal Williams for a minute. I'm gonna think of one more.
For sure. But no, Jamal Williams, I mean, silent. You know what I mean? His tenure down here was kind of silent in terms of just impact. He hasn't really had a huge impact on the team in multiple ways. He brought personality. He comes with his own unique personality. He's not afraid to show you who he is, what he's into. But there were points in training camp over this past summer where he was fighting because he's damn near the only back on the field still besides the 2 guys that they were alternating in Mims and them. But I really didn't see him lasting too long down here because he hadn't made a real impact. Kendrick Miller, I mean, if there was ever a time for him to show up, it's coming. You know what I mean? It's definitely coming. It was already here, but it's for real here now. He was taking reps over him in OTAs and minicamp last year. So we'll have to see how they go on in that running back position. Of course, you have Kamara, so you're not pressed, but
Yeah, look, and so I put that in my offensive rankings today, and I said this illustrates the point I was making about how they have needs across the board. I ranked running back last, and on some teams you rank running back first with this layout. I mean, Alvin Kamara turns 30 this summer, and they got no proven options behind him. Kendry Miller will get fresh start 3.0 or whatever with new coaching, and he's still just 22 years old. So maybe that could still happen for him. But
Kendrick 22.
yeah, isn't that crazy?
Golly, man.
So maybe it could still happen for him. But yeah, look, that's a route I think I'd like to see them go in the draft for a couple of reasons. I think the great value. We've talked about this many times over the years. 3rd and 4th round, they have 2 third-round picks and 2 4th-round picks. What a time to take a running back with one of those picks. Somebody who can start to work into the mix now, eventually maybe replace Alvin Kamara. I think there's always value there. If they wanted to go Gentry in round 1, obviously, I don't think that can transform a team, but obviously there's a need there. He'd be the number 1 guy in a year or two, and you could do a little boom and zoom in the meantime with Kamara. So I guess I don't go back to the well though and do another Jamal Williams. I like the signing at the time. I will take the L on that one. I actually loved the signing at the time. I thought he was the perfect complement to Carrera.
Yeah. When he came in, didn't he lead the league in
player?
Yeah, he led the league in touchdowns the year before.
Man, I'll tell you what. Buy stock in Bears running backs this year. Ben Johnson had Jamal Williams in Detroit running for 17 touchdowns. He comes to the Saints and does nothing. And they replace him with David Montgomery, who's turned into just this monster after he had not done much with the Bears. So Ben Johnson knows how to get the most out of running backs. But yeah, I mean, look, it just went bust. I mean, it's another unfortunate reminder of what happens to running backs. Most running backs outside of Alvin Kamara when they get into year 6, 7, 8 in the NFL. And obviously the offensive coordinators he worked with didn't have a good enough vision for him. Man, just completely. I mean, the least surprising move they're going to make this entire offseason. Only saves a little money against the cap, but he wasn't a guy. Even if he was going to play for the veteran minimum this year, there just wasn't room on him on this team anymore.
You had to break down on Twitter about the money. Kind of where's? I mean, it's a little.
So he was due. This is how. Here's a little small lesson on how the cap works. He was due $3.15 million this year. That was going to be the salary that he was going to make this year. So they saved that. They saved $3.15 million.
Yeah,
wasn't guaranteed. Don't have to write him a check. Won't be on the books next year. But what they do now get is all the dead money that was left on his contract, which is about $2.4 million. His cap number this year was going to be 3.9. Now it's 2.4. So you save 1.5 against the cap. But he's not in the top 51 salaries anymore. So a minimum guy comes up, counts close to $1 million against the cap.
Yeah.
That means they're saving about $500,000 in cap space. But so that's not why they did it. They didn't do it to save.
No, not to save that.
But now he's off the books forever. He won't be on next year's books. He won't have dead money next year. You're saving all the money you're not paying him in future years. Obvious move. The ones I'm kind of waiting to see, Colin Saunders and Nathan Shepard. I'd be really surprised if they kept both of them. Maybe the defensive staff has to decide which guy fits their vision better. I guess it's possible they could both stay, but I would bet defensive tackle is another place where we might see a cut.
It's funny that you say the defensive staff because Bink is out here making offensive promises on Twitter. Talking about how that Bink package has to go back in, how he can make some magic happen. We'll see.
All right, I've got touchdowns. I was thinking while we were talking. This is maybe the defining touchdown of the Derek Carr era. All one game that we felt good about it.
Mm-hmm.
Just run. Game winner.
Yeah.
Week 1. Rashid Shaheed going deep.
Tennessee. Yeah. Just hit it. That's a good one. No, there's some other ones sprinkled in there. I know they had the Taysom game.
Yep.
Where he took over against Cleveland.
Offensive player of the week. 4th and 1 conversion turns into like a 40-yard touchdown. That's a pretty good one. There's got to be some Camaro ones in there.
Yeah, definitely. The one in Dallas had a lot of good touchdowns that game. The one in Dallas though, where he just was going, and then Ruiz. See, had y'all sleeping on the big man's feet. Ruiz was just taking off in stride with him.
I owe everyone an apology if you're on the website. The photo that I found to go with that offensive needs story, there's a photo of healthy Eric McCoy, healthy Chris Olave, and healthy Alvin celebrating together after a touchdown against the Cowboys. Seems like
what a time.
Doesn't even seem like a long time ago. It seems like it never happened.
Yeah, what a time. What a time. That's ancient history.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. They're going to bounce back, though. All those guys, they're going to bounce back. It's going to be okay. I have faith, hope, all of that. You know what I mean? These are the Saints that we cover, so I'm very hopeful. But, I mean, there's a lot of good ones in there. Even earlier, I sprinkled in about the MVS one. That was a good one. So, I don't know, man. The Saints are so funny because you go back to the first 2 weeks of the season, and yeah, you can scratch off the Carolina game as a fluke, but that Dallas game, it just felt so real. Felt so real.
Not real. I mean, we weren't thinking that we were looking at a 13-win team or anything, but I did not think we were looking at a 5-win team. That's for damn sure.
Nah, not at all. Not at all. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we'll be back with more show.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hard Hide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com.
Welcome back for more NOF. It is now time for our next segment presented by Hard High Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. I know a good bit of people probably had some Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey over this Mardi Gras stretch. It's a good stretch, except for yesterday. Outside of the weather from yesterday, in terms of the wind being like real high, and then like later that night it being like damn near like a tornado. It was good. It was a good.
I went to Houma. You know, I represent your neck of the woods down there. Houma parades are my favorite parades every year. But man, they took the bands out, they took the trucks out, and they were like, "I'm telling you, that thing started at 11, it passed at 11:20." We were like, "Really? What are we doing now?" So we went and had some crawfish.
Oh man, nah. I hate the good old Lula parade. If you're in St. Charles, then you know what that's hitting on. And then I went to Endymion. And then that's how I got down. That's how I got down this week. So we had some good stuff going on. But roll into this next segment presented by Hard High Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. Could a free agent signing immediately fix a certain position group? Saw some signings in Chicago where they're getting better on the offensive line.
Reminds me of who does that? I'm already drawing a blank. That reminds me of Carolina did last year with Bryce Young. It's like, all right, we got one asset here.
Yeah.
Let's devote all other assets to making Caleb Williams work, and they're fortifying their offensive line there. I mean, the answer is yes and no. Like, that's not how I want to see the Saints approach the offseason. I don't want them to be like, hey, let's spend a lot of money on someone who makes us 2 wins better this season We're going to talk about Davante Adams in the Martin's question coming up. I don't want them to think that way, but I also didn't want them to think that way with keeping the team together. I made it clear, like, I'd go ahead and move on from Derek Carr. Like, I'd consider, like, trying to move on from all the 30-somethings on this team and just speeding up the process. But if they're trying to win this year, which they are trying to win this year, they're not eroding this roster. There's a couple spots where all of a sudden I might add to my win total. I mean, I mentioned the offensive line when we were talking about the draft. If you get a starting left guard who becomes one of your, like, 3 best offensive linemen, and then all of a sudden Cesar Ruiz is your 4th best offensive lineman and Trevor Penning's your 5th best offensive lineman, then, that can make the whole offense go if they stay healthy. A big body receiver. What if Kellen Moore wants to go back to what he did with Keenan Allen that year with the Chargers when he had like 108 catches or whatever it was? Boy, would he be a nice fit against all this. I'd feel so much better about the offense. And anything on the defensive line. I mean, defensive end is my number 1 need. Defensive tackle might be my number 2 need on this entire team. They need a tight end. I don't know that there's a transformational tight end out there in free agency, but especially if they're not bringing back Juwan Johnson, they need one. So there are moves they could make that would make me feel a lot better about the team. But I don't want them feeling like, how do we go from an 8-win team to a 9-win team by spending $20 million on a guy? I would hope anyone they sign is like 27 years old and he's part of now and the future.
Right. No, for sure. Even the other show, when you were talking about Paulson Adebo coming back from that gruesome injury that he had, I was thinking in terms of Foster Moreau. How is he going to come back? Is he going to be that stable, still just like in the tuck, we need a catch, throw it to him type of guy? And with Juwan gone, that's more reps that he's going to take. And then is Dallin Holker going to be able to move up and become what we thought? I don't know if
Mason Hill's coming off a major injury and Foster Moreau's coming off.
Yeah.
The Matrix, we might, I don't know when we're going to see him, probably at some point during training camp. Like Mickey Loomis said, we've got like a list of 25 things we need to accomplish this offseason. Tight end's probably going to be on there twice.
Yeah, no, for sure. So it's a lot of questions in there, man. It's a lot of how is this going to go? But no, I think, of course, defensive line as a whole needs to add a piece on there who's young, who's going to be, like you said, a part of the future. And does that include re-signing Chase Young?
I mean, maybe. Like, if we've talked so much about Chase Young being, to use a term you used earlier, fool's gold. Like, somebody's going to look at him and be like, 25-year-old, all the traits, look at all the pressures he had, healthy now. And if the Saints were signing a guy like that, I'd get excited about it. But, we got our hopes so high up for him last year, and he wasn't transformational. So does that mean I want somebody else's 25-year-old hasn't quite hit, like Jonathan Greenard when he, he's the guy we talked about a lot last year, went from Houston to Minnesota, and he did deliver, and the team wins 13 games or whatever they did in Minnesota. Like, yeah, I mean, there's nothing I would want more than that. The 27-year-old defensive end who's about to just be a stud for the next 4 years. But every team wants that, and it probably costs about $30 million a year to find the sure thing. So a lot easier said than done. But look, like we said, Brandon Staley's coming in here. He's installing a defense that has 3-4 roots. Doesn't necessarily mean a radical transformation of the personnel, but a defensive lineman that he feels like needs to be the centerpiece. Because look, they got a lot of number 2s on this defensive line. Ryan Brzez's a nice number 2. Carl Granderson's a nice number 2. Cam Jordan, is whatever complimentary piece he's going to be at this stage of his career. But who's somebody that they feel like can be a core piece of building the defensive line they want to build? That's where I'd like to see most of the money go in free agency.
You don't think Pete Granderson is a 1.5?
Pete Granderson, I mean, he was, 2 years ago when he had his best season. Yeah, he could be your number 1 defensive end if you don't have one of the top 20 number 1 defensive ends in the league. But I'd rather have him be my number 2.
Yeah, for sure. You're in a good spot if he's your number 2.
Yeah, exactly.
A position that we haven't really talked about, but it's still kind of an open wound low key. Like, even going back to the initial mock draft topic, I seen Malachi Starks, and I'm like, hey, you could add a safety and be okay. You know what I mean? So
Safety's a huge need.
no, for
Safety's
sure.
a huge need because they never found the consistent person to put next to Tyrann Mathieu. I did like Will Harris. I
Yeah, I liked him.
Will Harris come back, but you could immediately upgrade that other starting position. And oh, by the way, this is probably Tyrann's last year with the Saints. I mean, there's some talk about would they consider releasing him now. I don't see why that makes a ton of sense financially. You're only saving so much money if you release Tyrann now.
Yeah, then he's a locker room leader. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, but life after Tyrann comes fast, whether you keep him this year or not. So it's a huge need.
Yeah, and then Jordan Howden, he's developed a little bit last season, but not an exponential leap where it's like, oh, well, we have the future right here. Maybe some of these guys that the Philadelphia Eagles had to cut because they got that championship hangover where all these guys that you were on the floor with will not
They
be
just
here
got
next year.
corners, right? And then they've got like 3 more core players, free agent. Zach Bond. Would you sign Zach Bond at one of that? Probably not taking that call.
I won't do it. I won't even come back and say, hey, man, let's try this again. It won't happen. The man was talking about how mentally he was just like destroyed being down here. Don't want to be back. But hey, I'm not trying to be negative. Not trying to, draw him to that place. You remember
Open faith, I remember.
Yeah. During the open media sessions of Super Bowl week, he was just talking about how he loved it down here. He had his first kid down here. He had a crucial interception in the Super Bowl. This was before that happened, but crucial Super Bowl interception out here. Hey, man, 2025, New Orleans has been real good to you. So maybe pick up that phone. I doubt it, though. But, yeah, man, there's a lot of Band-Aids that could be placed across the board. And that's the thing kind of in my mind with this season and the roster buildup as a whole. You're going to have to put Band-Aids in certain places, but other places you need to go in and have surgery.
Yeah.
Just choosing where that is at.
I prefer, look, I mean, I've been on the fence for a few years, but I am full surgery over Band-Aids now. So I'm not excited about the concept of Band-Aids, depending on the price. Like, I mean, one name that makes sense is Kellen Moore just coached Mekhi Becton with the Eagles. If he came in and he was your left guard because Kellen Moore loved how he fits the offense he wants to run, like, I'm okay with that. But, man, last year they flirted with Justin Simmons. Last year they flirted with Davante Adams. And at the time, they were talking about trading a draft pick and spending a lot of money on Davante Adams. Like, I'm just so torn. Like, if they're going for it this year, I want to see them give them the best chance possible. Yeah. But I just, Band-Aids is the right word for it. I don't want Band-Aids that hinder, it's time to get that surgery and try to get right, for the next 10 years, not the, I'm tired of the Band-Aid approach, but
no, for sure. And they said when they come off, they still got like the little sticky residue on your arm, like where it's like stuck to your hair and you're like, and just pull it off.
I say that, but then as soon as they sign Keenan Allen, I'm going to explain, how much better it makes the offense right away. But,
yeah. It happens, But going back to that kind of, I said safety, but I kind of meant the secondary as a whole. If you bring one of these older cats in, maybe experiment on putting one of the younger guys further back in the secondary. I don't know.
I would, what you're saying, move Alante to safety or something, or move Kool-Aid to safety. I honestly, look, I think Paulson Adebo is going to get paid a lot, even though he had that major injury. And I think he's going to get paid too much probably for the Saints to get a hometown discount on him. That is a position where, look, I get it. They're not going to do that. Hey, let's just throw Spencer Rattler in at quarterback all year and see how he does. That's just not how they're approaching things. But I think if I'm allocating resources, I think I might want to have Alante at one outside spot and Kool-Aid at one outside spot and be like, hey, look, this is a spot where we've invested 2 second-round picks in young guys. Let's let them be our outside corners. You can sign a cheap nickel. And I might do that. And then if I find out one of those guys needs to be replaced, then I make a big splash next year in free agency or the draft. That might be a position where I'm okay. I'm okay throwing Kool-Aid and Alante out there. That's one place where they've invested high draft picks. But look, like I said, they need Pro Bowlers. They need all pros. If their number one pick is a corner, If their top free agent spending is someone like Asante Samuel, I'm not going to complain about it. Just get core players, and make the pieces fit.
Let's just roll on into our next segment, talking about people signing with the Saints, who they need to add, what they need to add. This is a two-way thing. It's not just I call you, you pick up the phone, and you come down here. You have to want to come down here in a certain sense. Not everybody likes money, so probably you'll sign. But just situationally, what is the biggest pull factor for somebody to come and sign with the Saints?
I mean, look, they got to be the highest bidder. Let's call it what it is, right? I mean, they're not rebuilding right now. They don't have the young quarterback. It's not like you're joining the Commanders and being like, I'm hitching my wagon to Jaden Daniels, and we'll see where this goes, or C.J. Stroud in Houston or something. It's a team that's going to look one way this year and might look different next year. Now, look, their coach is going to stick around. So if you fit Kellen Moore's scheme, if you fit Brandon Staley's scheme, you don't feel like you're joining a lame dunk situation there. They're going to build around you. But, they're not, it's – I don't think you're getting the hometown discount. Like Davante Adams might take less to go play for the Raiders or to follow Aaron Rodgers or I don't think players take less to come here. Justin Simmons last year, when you're looking for I got one more contract in me, I'm going to go join a championship contender. You're not getting that guy for less. So I think you got to be the highest bidder. Now, people don't look at the NFL as doom and gloom as we do, as Saints fans have after 4 straight seasons.
Yeah.
They can always look at the team as being a year away. So it's not that bad. They're contending. They're trying to win the NFC South. I think teams would look at it the same as joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. I don't think they're like, oh, that team's good and that team's bad. I think they put them in the same bucket. As I've said, the Seattle Seahawks, the Arizona Cardinals, half the league is like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Half the league is in this boat right now.
Yeah.
In the middle. But no, draw, you got to be the highest bidder. You really do.
No, for sure. And of course, money is king. That is what draws people down here. But
there's starting jobs. There's starting jobs to be had here too.
Definitely, buddy. If you want to get PT, come down here. Nah, for sure. But something that even I kind of outside the box was thinking about when kind of thinking what would be a pull factor. Even the structure of college football right now of guys going to a team and then bopping over whenever it's convenient for them. You're going on these hundreds of visits around the country. You're developing relationships with these different position coaches at these colleges. And now these guys are getting hired by the Saints. And maybe you have a connection.
Coach. Yeah.
Joseph from off the West Bank, because you're, in between transfer portal time, you met with him and he told you why coming to Texas was the greatest thing that you can ever do. And now he's in the NFL and you have that kind of relationship with him. You have a defensive line relationship with, a guy from LSU who, makes things happen. I think that is a factor in my book. Just thinking kind of unconventionally, that could lead to some people saying, hey, I have a relationship with this guy. He was a cool guy. If you're bringing that guy to the NFL, that means you're serious about doing something a little different, doing something new. You have the youngest coach in the NFL. You want to be surrounded by youth and the next new hotness, then, yeah, do it. So just unconventionally, that's a factor.
Keith Williams, same thing at receiver.
Exactly.
If you hear from Davante Adams, if you hear from Tyreek Hill, they swear by him. Got a great reputation.
Yeah.
Somebody you want to come play for? Sure.
Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. Martin's is your go-to destination for everything merry and bright this holiday season. From an unmatched selection of bourbon, whiskeys, and wines to gourmet food, gift baskets, and catering, Martin's has all your holiday needs covered. Family owned and operated since 1946, Martin's knows the perfect ways to celebrate this season with loved ones. Visit them in Metairie, New Orleans, or Baton Rouge, or shop online for the ultimate convenience. Whether you're raising a glass or looking for the perfect holiday gift, make it an easy and cheerful holiday with Martin's.
Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees, all just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street.
Welcome to the Queen Casino, the crown jewel of entertainment destinations. From the thrill of gaming, where every spin and deal brings you closer to fortune, to the excitement of sports betting, where you can feel the rush of victory. Our spaces and catering menu are perfect for any event, from business meetings to grand celebrations. Immerse yourself in our vibrant atmosphere with live music that keeps the party going all night long. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
Welcome back for the Martin Wine and Spirits question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked browse like bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's so much more than just wine. Today's question is, would Derek Carr consider taking a pay cut if that means the Saints could sign Davante Adams? This user says that they're not for or against it. They just want to hear the discussion. So where you at with it, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's a conversation that's going to be had. Now, I don't predict that Davante Adams will end up here. I think he probably liked the idea when they were 2-0 and they had just beaten the Cowboys 100 to 14 or whatever that game was. And he's probably going to look for can I go to the Super Bowl this year team? Even though he's got that relationship with Derek Carr, he's got that relationship with Keith Williams. But yeah, I think that's probably the exact discussions that are being had with Derek Carr right now. Is if he's going to give the Saints a pay cut, what's the win-win? The win-win is, all right, well then it'll give us some money to spend because they don't have money to spend right now. And if he's going to stay here and try to win in the year he turns 34 years old, he needs more around him. He obviously does. So I think that's probably the promise the Saints would have to make to him to get him to give money back, is that it's going to go right back into the offense. Now, I don't know that Davante Adams makes perfect sense because of his age. I don't know that Keenan Allen makes perfect sense because of his age, but I'm also thinking differently. I'm thinking surgery and not Band-Aid, and the Saints are thinking, let's go and win the NFC South this year because the NFC South still sucks, and we've got a bunch of older players. If they don't win now, they're never going to win again. So maybe those guys do make sense. But yeah, I like if you told me to predict, my prediction is Derek Carr gives a little money back, and that money goes back into the offense this year. Mickey Loomis said he thinks they're going to be more active in free agency than they were last year, and that's the plan. And so I bet that is the exact conversation that's going on with the Saints and Derek Carr.
If you tell me I have to keep Carr and I can sign Davante Adams, 32 years old, 8 touchdowns last year, for this year, I will say yes. But towards the end of this season, calling the Gap Band, I don't even know if the Gap Band is still alive. I know Charlie's still alive. But call them in, start playing outstanding, and get the TikTok reels ready because they got to go. It's done. It's washed. You know what I mean? So if it costs keeping Carr for another year and bringing in Davante Adams, sure, because you'll put the pieces around him, that make him the best. So I'll say yeah. If that makes him take a pay cut, then I'll say yeah. That's what I'm going with.
I'm just on a different wavelength than them. Look, I was there for a while. I hung on for a while, but I'm not there anymore. I'm not about the present. I'm about the future, man.
That's right.
And Davante Adams feels like he's about the present, but
It definitely is.
Ideal scenario, Derek Carr gives some money back, and you go sign some 27-year-old guy that's going to be your number 1 or number 2 receiver for the next 5 years. That'd be great. Maybe it helps him keep Rashid Shaheed. Maybe it helps him keep Juwan Johnson if that's a guy he wants to keep working with. Maybe it helps him, add an offensive lineman that's going to be a starter for the next 5 years. I'd rather see that above Davante Adams, but I'm not going to lie. If they add Davante Adams, that they're going to look that much more like a real contender this year. That's just not how I want to, invest my biggest expenditure.
And a Davante Adams ad would be an automatic out on MVS, right?
Not necessarily slightly different types of players, but maybe. I mean, it might look less attractive to MVS to come back here. Yeah, the attraction to MVS is I get to be like wide receiver 2 or 3 on this team.
All right, buddy.
Not a lot of places where that's being offered to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. That'll do it for this edition of NewOrleans.Football. We appreciate y'all for stopping in today. Be sure to be subscribed to NewOrleans.Football for the latest. Mike has his series on the needs of the Saints. And Nick, he's always coming with some fire too. Catch you next time.